Hey everyone! In today's video, we're diving into some of the wildest and most frustrating stories from Redditors who have found themselves stuck in relationships with people who, let's just say, suck. Whether it's gaslighting or just straight up bad behavior. Make sure to grab some snacks, grab a drink. I have my raspberry tea I've got going on here. Grab a blanket, let's just get cozy and let's get into it. The first story I found is from True Off My Chest. It is titled, "My husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why." My husband is 43 and I'm 31. We've been married for 7 years and have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. My husband left our children alone and he refuses to admit it or to tell me where he was. I'm furious, and my husband keeps telling me I'm making a big deal out of nothing. This just happened this weekend. I'm on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times and he responded. When I called around midday, he didn't respond, but that's not very unusual. Immediately a bit of a red flag that he's not responding, and he has 2 very young kids at home. Shortly after that, I got a call from my mom. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she believed that he was telling the truth and my husband wasn't there, and that there was no adult there at all. She said he didn't seem scared to be alone or worried that his dad wasn't there at all. He just called her to chat. He has a tablet designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call. It's only a few people, just family members. I left the event immediately and began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts. It took him about 10 minutes, I was already halfway home at that point, to respond. I was so confused, so worried, really mad, and I asked him where he was. He said he was at home. I told him our son had just called his grandmother and he said that he was home alone and his baby sister was watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it, and I told him I was too upset to talk and drive, and I'll talk to him later. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away and they were both fine. I asked my husband again, where was he? He said he was home the entire time. He doesn't know what our son was talking about. He must have just been confused because he just went to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement. It was the same load of laundry that was there the night before. He didn't do any laundry when I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone, and for how long for our son to think his dad wasn't home? That doesn't make sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended that long. And why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house? I begged my husband to just admit it. Stop treating me like an idiot and stop accusing our son of lying. Just tell me the truth, because being lied to right to my face is so incredibly maddening. He insists he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story as to where he was or what he was doing at the time. The way he answers me when I asked him about this is so dismissive. When I tell him, "You left our children alone," he quickly says, "No, I didn't." So anyway, he says I'm overreacting and letting our son's imagination drive me crazy. This gaslighting is crazy. I'm convinced he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to go ask our neighbor for their Ring footage. I had to go out to my car and scream because I was so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction. I can't put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know he must have really left them alone, but I have no proof. I'm just being treated like I'm a paranoid nutcase of a mother/woman by him. My first reaction to this is, please, please, please go ask your neighbor for that Ring footage. If they have anything, if they can see him, if he's like leaving the house, they'll be able to at least tell you and you can ease your mind. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Also, the gaslighting of this man is absolutely crazy. If your 5-year-old is so comfortable with you just disappearing and just not knowing where you are, that is so incredibly strange to me. When you have a toddler, you can't even go to the bathroom by yourself. They follow you around everywhere. They're like Velcro to you. Maybe not to you, but if you have like another parent in your house, one of you guys, there's going to be a little one attached to you at all times. And the fact that this little guy was so comfortable just calling his grandmother and not knowing where his dad was and just saying like, "Oh, well, yeah, Daddy's not home right now," is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And that to me means that this happens so frequently that he's just used to it. And that's just really That's just really upsetting. That's so dangerous. And the fact that he says that he was down in the basement doing the laundry and she goes and she checks and it's the exact same laundry as the night before. Like, that was just like some random lie pulled out of your butt, which basically proves that he is lying about something. We just don't know what it is yet, but he is definitely lying about something. He is hiding something. So I'm just going to read the top comment here. It says, when my now ex did this, it was drugs. Oh. I don't know why, but I didn't really get that vibe. They continue to say I didn't know about it. He told me months later when I found out that he often left at night and left their kids in the living room together. My youngest was under a year, the oldest was 5. Don't stop asking questions. I do definitely think that he is hiding something. I didn't really get the vibe that it was drugs, but hopefully we're going to find out. Another top comment says, get the Ring camera footage. That way you have proof either way. There's nothing wrong with getting some footage. Just tell your neighbor that a package was stolen and you want to see if someone stole it. Or you wonder what time your husband left that day. Don't have to explain it, just get the info. I completely agree with this. Get that Ring footage as soon as you can. And someone commented on that. As a neighbor with Ring doorbells, I would 100% be invested in helping you catch your husband lying. I would too if I had a Ring camera and I had my neighbor come up to me and say, listen, I need to see what my husband was doing yesterday. Can I have the footage? I'd be like, hell yes. Somebody else says, what is worse than leaving such young children home alone that you don't want to admit to it? That's a really good point. To me, leaving your kids home alone is so terrible, but what in his mind is worse than that he doesn't want to admit to that? He'd rather his wife think that he left their kids home alone. Okay, we have an update. Last weekend, my husband left our 5-year-old and our 9-month-old home alone while I was gone and then refused to admit it and provide a plausible explanation. Since then, we've had many arguments about it. I've been living in a constant state of anger and frustration. I didn't want to fight about it anymore, but I couldn't help it and I kept bringing it up again and again. I couldn't, quote, lay low and pretend to get over it while I waited for him to do it again. I also knew that demanding he tell me the truth wasn't going to get me anywhere, since he'd been refusing to talk and was deflecting for days. All it was doing was making me feel enraged, and I feel like I was about to have a brain aneurysm. I told him to hand me his phone so I could check his location at the time. He refused. He said he wouldn't do it because that was a violation of his privacy. He, quote, won't be treated that way and refuses to give in to my delusions. You think I enjoy being in a situation where I have to beg my husband to show me his phone so I can see where he was? I hate it. I don't want to live that way. I told him it's simple. If he really was at home, just prove it. Why wouldn't he want to clear the whole thing up? I got so mad that he wouldn't turn over his phone that I told him I was going to the neighbors to get their Ring doorbell footage. Good job. Get that footage. At first, he was like, fine, go do it. He didn't think I actually would. He knows I don't like to air drama out to others, so he probably figured I'd just swallow all this crap he's been giving me. Luckily, I was totally being driven by anger at this point, so nothing was going to stop me from going to the neighbors. When I actually started to go to the door, he tried to stop me, and then he followed me out the door. I felt pure anger rushing through my veins. Nothing else. The neighbor, who I've probably said less than 10 words to, told me he'd send me the footage. I went home. I told my husband that the neighbor didn't have the footage from the day before anymore, and I told him I just needed to go to the store to cool off. So I put the kids in the car and went and parked somewhere while I waited for the neighbor to send me the footage. I have the neighbor's number now too, and he told me if I need any more footage, he will be happy to give it to me. Amazing. I have chills right now. I'm so excited to find out what's on this footage. She got the video. The video shows a blue car that I don't recognize show up and park in our driveway. A blonde woman gets out of the car and goes towards my house. She walks on the outside of the garage toward the gate leading to our backyard. The gate is too far back and out of the way to be seen by the doorbell footage, but you can see she and her car were there for about 23 minutes. Imagine that. The car leaves right around the time my husband called me to say that he was home and had been home the entire time, as I was rushing home in a panic and calling him on repeat. One of the two possibilities as to where they went: A, she either came in through the side door on the side of the house, which does not prove direct access to the basement, or And what I think is more likely is that they were in the back area of our yard, which is a gated pool area. Immediately behind our house is a grass lawn. Then you step down a few steps and we have a patio. Then there is a fully gated area where the pool is. It's not like what you think of when you picture a gated pool. It's a full 6 feet wood fence all the way around, plus even taller landscaping for added privacy. You can't see into the area unless you're inside. I think it's more likely that they were back there because my son said his dad's keys were gone. We keep that gate locked with a key. The pool is closed for winter, but there is one small building back there, sort of like a shed we converted into a changing area. And then there's a covered patio with furniture. I'm convinced that's where they were. So technically he was home, but in an area totally removed from the house and where he couldn't see or hear the kids if something had happened. I asked him how can he explain this? What were they doing? I obviously don't need him to tell me what they were doing, but for some reason I still hoped that he would finally be honest. He wasn't contrite. He showed no remorse. He was just like, yeah, she was here, but obviously I never left. The audacity of this man. Who is she? How long has this been going on for? And if he's going to be such a disgusting, despicable excuse for a man, then why couldn't they have at least found any other time or any other lie or any other excuse other than that he was home alone with our kids? I told him, I know this has happened before and I demanded to know how many times. How many times have he done this when he was home alone with our kids? He swears that this was the only time, but still doesn't have the balls to confess what they were doing. I don't believe him that this is the only time, FYI. I still have so many questions and I feel like my heart is beating 200 times a minute. My blood pressure is through the roof. I've cried a lot, sobbed, begged for somebody to help me, yelled, screamed, ordered a bunch of books about divorce and custody. And you know what? The next day, after our multiple explosive fights, him putting his hands on me and me seeing the evidence, he acted like everything was totally normal and none of this stuff ever happened. I woke up still seething, exhausted, broken, and he's acting like everything is totally normal. He said he was ordering breakfast to be delivered from our favorite breakfast place. He asked if I wanted to go to the store together later and try this new recipe for chili tonight. What? Why would I? Why would I want to do any of these things with you now? Absolutely no acknowledgement of anything he's done or what's transpired between us the last few days. He deserved an Oscar for how well he was able to act like nothing had happened. He was completely comfortable and non-phased. I know that it's a waste of my energy, but I desperately want him to admit the full truth of what he did that day and any other day with this woman. I want to hear it from him. It won't change whatever he's done, but he could at least have the respect and decency to be honest now that he's been caught. That's a ridiculous thought though, right? How foolish of me to expect this man to show decency and honesty now. If he was decent and honest, then he wouldn't have had a strange woman over to our house and been out of sight from our kids for 23 minutes. He continued denial and refusal to admit anything other than the bare minimum. His attitude, like I'm somehow being controlling or infringing on his rights by asking for information, it's almost more hurtful than him cheating on me. That's the end of the post. The first top comment says, first and foremost, endangering your children to get laid is just the actions of a slime weasel. Secondly, putting in so much effort to have an affair sounds exhausting. What's the purpose of spending so much energy to be cruel to someone you have to be near so often? Just divorce. I completely agree. Like, this is absolutely crazy that he's going through so much lengths to hide a relationship and putting your 5-year-old and 9-month-old in danger. Additionally, yeah, they were gone for 23 minutes, but that's only because she called. How often does this happen? And I'm sure it goes on for way longer. If the little 5-year-old is so used to being alone at this point and just like doesn't even blink, like, oh yeah, daddy's not here again. It's got to be happening so often and probably for such longer lengths of time. This is only what she has proof of, is the 23 minutes. I seriously hope this lady is able to file for divorce and get custody of her kids because it is endangering of the children. They're 5 and 9 months old. You're not even really supposed to be in another room with children that young, let alone leaving them alone in the house to go be in the backyard. Like, that's absolutely bonkers to me. I can't even imagine doing that to anybody's child, let alone my own children. And then making it worse by gaslighting her and making it seem like she's the one that's overreacting and crazy and, oh no, I was home the whole time. I'm so happy that she finally knows what was going on and is able to do right by her and her children and get a divorce and get them out of this dangerous situation, because this is absolutely insane. This guy truly sucks. Moving on to the next one. So this next one is in the subreddit AITAH, and it is titled AITAH for forcing my husband to choose between me and his mother. I love mother-in-law stories. I'm really lucky to have really, really great parents-in-law. Well, me and my boyfriend aren't married yet, but I do consider them to be my parents-in-law, my suegras. So it starts off, I, 31 female, and my fiance, 36 male, are set to get married in July. We met through a mutual friend earlier years ago, and our relationship progressed. He's literally the perfect guy, but the problem is his mother, Katie. Katie has been critical of me since day one. She often tells my husband that he, quote, could do better, and I'm just an uneducated slum. I could usually disregard her, but when he proposed, she went to a whole new level. The main incident occurred when we went to visit her a few days ago to announce our engagement. My future husband excitedly showed her the ring, but she just grimaced. She looked at him and said, "Are you really going to marry that R-word gold digger?" My husband laughed nervously, and we quickly left after. A little context, I have high-functioning autism. It doesn't affect me too much on a daily basis, but I have trouble interpreting emotion. After we got home, I sobbed and asked my husband to tell his mom that this needs to stop. He didn't say much, just that he loves me and things will get better, but he can't say anything to his mom. When I pushed for answers, he said he can't do anything about it and left. His sister sent me a text later, telling me that I can't make him choose between me and his mother. I'm so confused because I didn't even ask him to do that. Is there something I'm missing? So she starts off the post saying that he's the perfect guy, so it sounds like they don't have a lot of issues in their relationship. But to me, this sounds like a huge red flag, especially if you're going to be getting married, because you not only marry the person that you're marrying, obviously, you're also marrying into their family. And if you guys aren't even married yet and this is the way his mom is treating you, I can't even imagine how she's going to treat you as she gets to know you better and gets more comfortable with you. Calling you an R word is crazy. And you would hope, as your partner, your fiance, if he hears his mom calling you these things and doesn't immediately stand up for you and say, like, hey, mom, like, that's not appropriate. Don't call my fiance that, my future wife that. That to me is crazy. That's not fair. Your partner's supposed to be your partner. They're supposed to be there for you to back you up. He's making himself choose. You're not. He needs to choose between you and his mother. I don't want to say jump right to like breaking up, but I really hope that you're able to have a conversation with him and he's able to realize how inappropriate this is, that his mom is making these comments towards you. And maybe you guys can all talk together and see, like, where is this coming from? Like, is there some kind of bad blood? What is the reason why his mom is even saying these comments in the first place? If you guys are able to have a conversation, you and your fiance, I mean, and then come to an agreement that you both agree that this kind of behavior is inappropriate from the mother and he has to say something to her. And then based on how that goes, then I would decide whether or not to break up. You don't need to deal with a woman who is going to be insulting you and calling you names. So unless he can change that, because it's his family, it's his responsibility to say something to his own mother. If he's not willing to do that, I would definitely say break up. This definitely isn't a very good situation. I hope that something can change for sure. So we do have an update. So she says, "Hey everyone, thank you so much for all of your support. I'm so tired of everything right now. Here's the final update, I hope. As some of you may have seen, my fiance posted an AITA post earlier today." The fiance did a post? Oh, I want to go read that one too. Okay, I'm going to read this one and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to read the fiance's post because that's insane. She says, "I haven't seen him since our last fight. He was pretty much getting destroyed in the comments, so that made me feel a little bit better. Here's a link to his post." Should I go read it now? Okay, I'm going to read it now and then I'm going to continue on her update. So this is the fiance posting. AITA for choosing my mom over my fiance. "Hey Reddit. Yesterday, my friend sent me this post on the subreddit that was made by my fiance. She totally makes me look like a villain, so I just have to say my side. Oh boy. We've been dating for a while now, and it's been great aside from the past few days. My mother, 63 female, is a single mother that raised me and my sister alone. She has always been the most supportive mother ever, and I love her to the end of the world. She is getting on in her years now, and she's not the same person she was. She has always been a little overprotective of me, so she has never fully accepted my fiance. I didn't think that it was that big of a deal since she doesn't say anything directly to my fiance. Well, it kind of sounds like she does, buddy. Then, last weekend when we were announcing our engagement at our house, my mom wasn't too thrilled, and I admit she made a rude remark regarding my fiance's autism. She called her the R word. We left quickly after, and I comforted my fiance for over an hour. I ordered her takeout, I made a bath for her, and put on a movie. I explained to her that my mom is just getting older and doesn't have full control over what she says. My fiance kept pushing, and I eventually snapped and told her I can't do anything about it. I'm not sure my fiance understands because she doesn't have a close bond with her mom. I stayed at my mom's house and went back in the morning. Long argument short, my fiance started blowing the old comments my mother made out of proportion and not even bothering to mention her age. Like I said, in all caps he says, my mom is old. She doesn't understand this fully. She left and I haven't seen her since. Her friend contacted me and said I am a-hole for choosing my mom over her. I'm not choosing my mom over her though. We are still getting married. So, am I the a-hole? I do have to mention that that post has 0 upvotes and almost 500 comments. Yes, sir. You are the a-hole. You're saying 63 is old. That's a crazy take. That is a crazy take, saying that 63, you don't know what you're saying. Unless she has early onset dementia, which I think if she did, he probably would put in there because that seems extremely relevant, but he didn't say anything about that. Let's say she is like a regular 63-year-old. You are still fully aware of what you're saying. You are on the ball. Okay, anyway, I'm going to go back to the original comment. So anyways, after he posts this, he calls me, and like an idiot, I pick up. And let me tell you, this man did not sound stable. First, he was crying, begging for me to come back, and then he was screaming at me to get the F back here. It was heartbreaking to hear the man I thought I was going to marry sound so psycho. I started the call just in case I needed evidence, and then I hung up and I blocked him everywhere. About an hour later, he shows up to my friend's house acting crazy and saying some things that I can't repeat here. I called the police and they took him away. I left to stay at a hotel. My friend has really been supportive, but I can't put her in danger. I hope this is the final update, but if anything else happens, is there a different sub I can post in? I feel like I'm deviating from AITA. And then she adds at the end, sorry if this isn't edited properly, I just can't with life today. Again, thanks for all the support. It truly means more than I can ever say. Oy. That to me sounds like enmeshment. I've recently learned about this word. So enmeshment is a psychological term that describes a lack of boundaries between people and often family members. So I personally notice this is really common between mothers and sons, especially in these Reddit stories where the mother, she feels this kind of like ownership over her son for some reason. So whoever he is dating or whoever he's getting married to, they could be the most perfect, amazing person in the world, but his mother just hates her. So that's what this sounds like to me. It sounds like she doesn't care who his fiance is. She's probably never going to like the girl that he marries. Not that I think that these two should get married. I think that OP dodged a serious bullet here, and I hope that she keeps him blocked, and obviously he has a lot of issues if he's just going off the rails like that because she decided to set a boundary. He, I think, really needs to go to therapy. His mom sounds like she needs to go to therapy as well if she is just outwardly calling people names like this. And he needs to learn that his mom does not have dementia just because she is 63 years old. Just because you're a little bit older doesn't mean you can go around calling people names and completely say whatever you want, no regard of other people's feelings. But anyway, I'm happy that OP has blocked him. I'm not happy that she had to call the police, but that is probably a good thing that there's at least a police report out there now on this guy, because he seems like he's a little bit unhinged. But yeah, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so we've had 2 stories where the husband slash fiance, they have really sucked. Now we're moving on to a story where the wife is, she needs something fixed up here, I think. This one I actually found in Best of Redditor Updates. So it was originally posted to AITAH by user Winter Reveal 5894. I, 39 male, am married to my wife, Jennifer, 37. We have been married for 8 years and we have 2 children. I work full time and Jennifer is a stay-at-home mom. She's a wonderful mother to our children, but one thing that she does not like to do is cook. This works out just fine for me, as I generally get off work at 4:30 and I happen to be a phenomenal cook. My father was a chef, and I've been cooking since I was 10 years old. I also worked as a line cook for several years. Virtually everyone loves my cooking. When we have company, it gets rave reviews. Our children always ask for seconds. I put a lot into it, and I take pride in my cooking skills. The only person who doesn't like my cooking is Jennifer. She complains endlessly. She says it's too salty, or there's too much pepper, or this is undercooked. She also backseat cooks a lot, where I'll be in the kitchen making something and she just won't shut up about what I should be doing differently. The worst part, though, is that she'll frequently insult my cooking and then go get garbage like a Hot Pocket or frozen dinner from the freezer to eat. Last Wednesday, I made Salisbury steak with mushroom gravy, cream cheese mashed potatoes, and roasted asparagus. That sounds amazing. When I put Jennifer's plate in front of her, she made a disgusted face. She poked at her Salisbury steak for a few seconds and then took the tiniest bite imaginable. She then made an exaggerated retching sound, dramatically threw her fork on the plate, and went to heat up a microwave burrito. That's just plain rude. I just snapped. I didn't say anything at the time because our children were there, but I was completely done. The next day, I made teriyaki bowls with broccoli. Jennifer sat at the table waiting for hers, and I informed her that I was done cooking for her. When she asked why, I told her it's a waste of food and she should just go have a Hot Pocket. Jennifer is furious that I won't cook for her, and she says instead of giving up, I should try a bit harder. I think she should just subsist on whatever microwavable slop she likes to and stop complaining. Did I escalate too much here? You know what? I like this. If first of all, she's a stay-at-home mom, that doesn't necessarily mean that she needs to be a cook. If it works out, he loves cooking, he gets home on time, he's not too exhausted, he's able to cook. It sounds like he genuinely enjoys cooking and he's proud of his cooking skills. So that's not where I have the issue here. I have the issue with the fact that she is complaining about food that is literally just being served to her. That is just rude. It seems like the kids like it. It seems like it's edible. It honestly sounds like it's delicious. And yet she's complaining about it. I understand that everybody has different tastes and maybe she doesn't like the type of food that he's cooking. But if that's the case, obviously there are options for her to eat in the fridge or in the freezer or whatever. If she is really going to be making that big of a deal of not liking the food that he is so generously making for her, like making home cooked meals every single day is so much effort. It takes so much energy. And the fact that he's doing that after work and she's just making retching sounds towards it, that's so disrespectful. If my partner were to make me food, even if I didn't really like it, I would still eat it. I wouldn't even say anything. I would hate to say something to my partner that would insult his cooking, especially if he was doing something nice to me, nice for me, trying to help me. And then she has the audacity to say you need to try harder. Excuse me? This OP so far seems like he has a really good head on his shoulders because, first of all, when she's just being so blatantly rude, like making retching sounds towards his food, she's doing it in front of the kids. That is setting such a bad example for your kids. I know, like toddlers, I have a toddler. When we give her something that she doesn't want to eat, she will just say, no, like, no, I'm not going to eat it. We are trying to teach her, like, you are given this food to eat. You need to eat it. The fact that she is setting this example for her children that she can just say, ugh, and then go and get whatever she wants to eat, that to me is just, it's poor parenting. I'm sorry. Second of all, the fact that his reaction, even though he was insulted, was to just kind of, stay quiet in the moment, even though he was so upset. He said that he just snapped. He snapped internally, though, because he knew that his kids were there. He's obviously trying to set a good example for the kids. He's not going to say anything to her while they're in the room. That to me shows like he has good self-control. He's got a good head on his shoulder. He's trying to be a good parent. So Jennifer, like, what are you doing? You need help. You don't even like to cook. If you really have an issue, this much of an issue with your husband's cooking, maybe take a cooking class, maybe get a cookbook, learn to cook yourself. Maybe you guys can try to cook together and then, discuss what you're going to be eating that day. Try to work together as a team, because complaining again about food that is being served to you by someone who just, worked a full shift. And I know there obviously there are parents who both people work and they take turns cooking. You always pick up the slack in a relationship where you can, even if both of you guys are working, maybe someone cooks dinner, the other one cleans the house that day. You try to keep everything in a balance. If he's cooking all the time because you don't like to cook, and then you have the audacity to complain about his cooking, that's just rude. That's completely disrespectful. I completely agree where he's coming from. I probably wouldn't cook for her anymore either. She can go have a Hot Pocket. So some of the top comments say, is there anything you make that she does like? To which OP responds, no, she complains about literally everything that I make. Another commenter says, not the a-hole. She created this dynamic. Just make sure you and your babies are well fed. She doesn't deserve your food, especially since she's being negative on purpose. And OP responds, one thing that I take very seriously is how my boys eat. My wife and I are very fortunate to be able to afford good ingredients, so I spend probably more than necessary on food for them. My older boy says he always looks forward to his lunchbox at kindergarten. See, that to me just sounds so nice. He sounds like he's a really good dad. He's trying to do what's best for his boys. He genuinely enjoys cooking. It sounds to me like he is a good cook. Maybe she's feeling insecure about being a stay-at-home mom, and so she wants to bring him down a peg by complaining about his cooking or something like that. So the update was posted on February 27th. It's a pretty new update. OP says, about a month ago, I posted about something that happened on here over dinner one night. My wife, Jennifer, literally retched at my cooking, despite taking the tiniest bite imaginable. After that, I refused to cook for her, which made her very angry. It was this bizarre disconnect between her thinking my food was trash, not fit for a compost bin, but her demanding that I continue making it for her anyway. I was hesitant to update because for some reason, beyond my understanding, I received about a dozen hate-filled direct messages after my last post. They were all being sent from users of a parody community. I have no idea what I did to make so many people upset, but a lot of people asked me for an update, so I figured I'd give one. That's weird that he was getting hate messages. I wonder why. I'm curious to see some of those hate messages, because to me, he doesn't seem like he's the a-hole at all. Anyway, the last month has really been eye-opening for me. I had long ago noticed that Jennifer was highly critical of my cooking, but over this time, I've come to realize that she's really critical of just about everything that I do. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was walking outside with her. I'm pigeon-toed and have been since I was a baby, although it's a lot better now. Jennifer asked why I was walking with my toes slightly pointed in, and that's when I explained to her, I'm pigeon-toed. She responded in an exasperated tone, why don't you just try walking with your feet straight? Yes, thank you. My literal bone issue was just magically cured by your advice. I never realized that the problem that I had suffered for nearly 40 years was staring me right in the face. I think he meant to say, I never realized that the answer to the problem. But anyway, at least now I know if I ever get cancer, I can just get rid of it by deciding not to have cancer. You see, I never really noticed how critical she was towards me on virtually everything that I do. She's just more forward about my cooking. For example, when she walks into my home office, she always scrunches up her face in this really displeased way. I don't think she likes the interior, which I designed, because she wants nothing but white and gray in every room of the house. Whenever I try to do laundry, she'll hear me open the washing machine door and beeline over to backseat me through the whole process. This is coming from a woman who once ruined a $1,500 suit of mine because she thought bleach would be the perfect stain remover, by the way. When I was explaining an issue that I had with my colleague to her, she took my colleague's side despite her being objectively in the wrong from an industry standpoint. My wife was adamant, though. I must have been the one to screw things up. I'm honestly just exhausted. The criticism of my cooking was the worst, yes, but it really just overshadowed everything else she always found fault with me on. I tried to have a conversation with her, and naturally, she denied doing anything of the sort, denied ever being rude to me, and even denied retching at my food. She actually tried to gaslight me here. She kept asking questions like, "When did I do that? Tell me the date." She then called me a hypocrite for being critical of her, hijacked the conversation, and eventually stonewalled me. I've come to realize that I don't really like my wife anymore. She's just such a negative person. It makes me sad. But in the next few days, I'm going to ask her for a divorce. She's not going to like it, but I've come to realize that when she walks into a room, I get anxious about what she's going to say to me. Thank you for all your comments. I also apologize if this was long-winded. My marriage is falling apart and I'm not in the best headspace right now. And then there's just a little edit saying, "Thanks for all the advice. I'm getting hate messages from that community again. I don't really need this as I have to deal with child custody, divorce, assets, and telling my children that mommy and daddy are going to be separating. It's a really stressful time, and they're mocking me in the DMs. I'm going to stop checking my inbox in this account so I won't be reading any more of your comments. Thank you so much for all the support." Wow. She sounds like an absolute miserable, miserable person, complaining about everything that you're doing. No wonder you're feeling exhausted. The worst thing is the fact that when he was trying to discuss these things with her, these issues that he felt that they needed to talk about, and she was just denying it and saying, "Tell me when I said that. Tell me the exact date." Nobody usually remembers the exact date that something happened. And if you did it, you know that you did it. So that's almost gaslighting, saying, "I didn't do it, like prove it." And then if you can't tell me the exact date, that means I didn't do it. Like that's like, is it deflecting? I don't know. I don't like that. That just seems really, really terrible. Doesn't seem like healthy or functional behavior for a relationship. It's just too bad that it took him so long to realize that she was like that. But it seems like it's for the best. OP seems like he's a nice guy. He's willing to, he obviously cares about his kids and he's willing to cook for his wife every single day after work, even though she's a stay-at-home mom. And I'm not saying like stay-at-home moms need to be cooking as well. Being a stay-at-home mom is exhausting enough as it is. If your partner is able to go off and be at work for 8 hours and you're at home with 2 kids, it sounds like one of the kids is in kindergarten, but you're at least home with 1 kid all day long. That is exhausting. And I do think like people should be taking turns cooking dinner and stuff like that. But if he's willing to do that and like wanting to do that every single day, and he is obviously caring about what his kids are eating and that they're getting healthy home cooked meals, I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing, OP. You do you. She obviously is not right for you. One of the top comments says she's gonna need to stock up on Hot Pockets. Sounds like she will. But I mean, like, if she prefers eating microwavable food over fresh home-cooked meals every day, that's on her. Another commenter says, "OP's wife just sounds like a deeply unpleasant and selfish individual. I bet she's gonna flip when she gets served her papers." Probably. Another one says, "This sounds like emotional abuse." That's kind of what I was getting at too. Like, it sounds like she is feeling very insecure in the relationship. So she's feeling the need to nitpick at OP just to make herself feel bigger, make herself feel better. It's like bullying. So that's just awful. You don't want to be in a situation like that. Like I said, you do you, OP. Hopefully you have a clean divorce, and yep, your kids deserve much better than to be growing up with parents who are in a clearly toxic relationship. So it sounds like you're going to be much better off, and hopefully a lot happier after the dust settles. So that is all I have time for today. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. I have a lot more that are going to be coming up soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you did enjoy this type of content, and hopefully I will see you guys again in the next video. Bye.